as these old identifications dissolve, there's a quieting of that noise that we have lived with internally. And the truth is that this deeper, this quieter place, as I've called it, is always available to us. Right here in this moment, it's always available to us as we clear out those old identifications, those learned obstacles to this deep connection. And of course, like usually the more noise we have inside, the more we tend to also project that noise out into our lives. And oftentimes, you know, then our life is also kind of noisy and it's difficult and it's kind of chaotic potentially. And it's basically, I mean, in some cases at least, sometimes they're just external circumstances, but many times that's the dynamic. And so we project that internal chaos and that external noise out into the world, and then our lives become noisy and difficult. So remember one more time, our old identifications, they bind energy. They bind psychic energy and they bind physical energy. And the disidentification process frees up energy. And it supports the energy to be integrated as part of our life force. And then this sometimes tremendous amount of life energy that has been bound up in these identifications, it becomes more and more available to us again. So then that can free up space for all kinds of things, for creativity, more, you know, capacity for self-activation, self-actualization, more capacity to just live life to the fullest, more capacity to love, all these things. Now, of course, I also don't want to like oversimplify this. This doesn't mean that that's it for the rest of our life. No more difficulties, no more pain. It's not like that, because all of us we're works in progress, but that's the direction that we're heading. It's a developmental process over time. And over time, we will get to access more and more for life energy and more for life force, as I keep saying. Because really, this is our energy. This is our own core energy. And that's like our birthright as a human. We only had to dampen it down because, again, because of how we had to adapt to environmental failure and internalize that. One last time looking at Pillar 4 in this context now. So with Pillar 4, we are literally supporting the transformation of our life energy that has previously been bound up. The transformation of that life energy into new pathways, into neural pathways, into new physiological pathways. And the internal experience of that is usually one of more freedom. And another point around this is that the more we are connected to our authentic self, the more we have worked through our old identifications. In other words, the more we have disidentified from child consciousness, then also the less dependent we will be on the environment for a sense of self-worth, for a sense of value as a human being. And that's, again, one aspect of the freedom that we find in our adult consciousness. Doesn't mean that, you know, we're human beings, we're like tribal humans, we're, you know, mammals that, you know, are designed to exist in groups. So it's not like we no longer care about others. It's not at all what I'm talking about. But we just become increasingly independent of the constant feedback from outside for our own sense of being okay or for a sense of self-worth. So disidentification and increasing psychobiological capacity, they reinforce each other. They go hand in hand in the healing process as we work both top down and bottom up. Again, all of this relates to that feeling of coming home to ourselves that I mentioned before. As it states on the slide here, we, or our clients, we learn to tolerate increasing flow, connection, health, and aliveness. So again, coming back one more time to how we see post-traumatic growth in NARM. overall, like generally. And it has a lot to do with increasing psychobiological capacity, which includes increasing capacity for creativity, self-activation, self-actualization, as I mentioned a few minutes ago. And then with the second bullet point here, let's talk briefly also about increasing affect tolerance and how that's also a significant part of post-traumatic growth. And affect tolerance, and I hope most of you or all of you know that term, is basically means the capacity to just be with different emotions and to tolerate them. So obviously a very important psychobiological capacity that's important to develop. And it kind of goes both ways, because affect tolerance means our capacity to not have to run away from unpleasant emotions, but it also includes our capacity to be and tolerate the more positive, the more expanded emotional states, because that too gets compromised in response to early trauma. Basically, what we're talking about here is the increasing capacity to feel the full spectrum of human emotions without needing to disconnect. It's important not to underestimate how subversive and ultimately transformative this work is, this work being NARM. We're really challenging what we take to be our identity, a certain kind of fiction about who we are that we've identified as. This challenge is more threatening and life-affirming than we may realize. I like that a lot. This work is subversive and ultimately transformative. And I hope, as we're coming to the end of this training, that these words make sense to you now. Like you've learned all the four pillars, the more kind of technical ways how we go about it, things. You've learned about the framework in terms of what we support in a client. And hopefully all of that helps you realize like what we're actually doing here. We're really questioning it at the deepest level who the person has taken themselves to be for all these years. And we're opening up the space for them to reconnect with who they actually are underneath all of that. That's really deep,